the Walther PPKs in 22. Let's check it out. The Walther PP series, which stands for Police Pistol, is one of the most successful semi-automatic pistols ever produced. For over 90 years, the PPK, PPKs, and the PP have been a very popular firearm, not only here in the US, but also in Europe. One of the big reasons for that is because of James Bond. Back in the early 60s and 70s, James Bond carried the PPK. But it was also popular with German officers during World War II. And a lot of GIs brought back PPKs. Now this is the PPKs. Because of the 1968 Gun Control Act, small firearms were restricted in being imported into the country. And so they took the standard Walther PPK and they just extended the grip a little bit. And the S stands for sport. But of course, 22 long rifle is a very popular caliber, and it's cheap to shoot, it's low recoil, they're a lot of fun, especially with new shooters. Walther did introduce the THP in 22. It was a smaller version of this, but now they're making the PPKs in 22. This is a great little firearm that mimics a lot of the same features of your standard PPKs. And this is approved by James Bond, just for plinking, of course. Walther has been making high-quality firearms for well over 100 years, and with the Walther PP series, it has been one of their most successful. This is the Walther PPKs in 22 long rifle. Let's go ahead and drop the magazine. It's a 10-round magazine, stainless steel, and we're going to check the chamber, and the firearm is empty, and we're going to drop the hammer. The Walther PPKs was designed originally around the Walther PP. Now we're going to show a number of different firearms, and I have safety checked all of them. This is in 32 ACP. You'll notice that it does have a longer slide and barrel. We have a longer grip over the standard Walther PPK, which was a very small firearm that a lot of German officers carried during World War II. Then came the PPKs, which is a little bit of a longer frame over the PP, which had a very short grip. Very easy to conceal. But again, because of the 1968 Gun Control Act, the PPKs were not allowed to come into the country, and so Walther began to make the PPKs for sport. So PP stands for Police Pistol, the K stands for Kurtz, which means short, and then this one is what they call the Sport. And so it's just a little bit of a longer frame. And that's what the PPKs 22 is based on. Now these have polymer grips, they have an aluminum alloy frame, and they have a carbon slide. And this on the blued model. And they also make a stainless steel model which has the stainless steel slide, and then it has a nickel finish on the frame. These are fixed barrel blowback firearms. Now these are double single action. That means that when you pull the trigger, it actuates the hammer, and with the hammer down, it will fire the handgun. Subsequent shots, the slide will come back and the hammer will be in the rear position with a much less trigger pull weight. Also, with the hammer in the rear position, it does have a decocker right here, so we can bring that down and it brings the hammer into the rear position. Bring it back up and then you can fire it again. Now one of the things I want to show you is the decocker, how it's actually a firing pin block. And you'll notice when this comes up, it blocks the hammer from hitting the firing pin. And then as we continue on, it'll drop the hammer. The sights are very small, but they're black outline sights. They're not that difficult to see, actually. They're pinned at the front, and then there's a dovetail at the back, which is somewhat adjustable. And included is 2 extra front sights to make sure that you get on target. Now here we see the markings on the side, of course, with Walther, model PPKs. .22 long rifle, made in Germany. And these are produced in Germany. Here with the grip, it does have Walther. And you do have your screw here, but you have your mag release right here, which a lot of firearms during this time had the heel type mag release. But this has the mag release right here. Not too bad to get to. You really have to reach around to get it. Now you'll notice that there is a slight beaver tail right here, which helps with slide bite. And that slide does come right over your hand. So, you know, you really want to have a good solid grip on this firearm. And these are imported by Walther Arms in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Nice slide serrations right here. Very easy to bring back the slide. And with .22, that's part of it. The slide is fairly light. But the pistol itself does have a little bit of heft to it. And a lot of that has to do with the fixed barrel design and the way it is made. You do have straight line serrations along the front, which keep the glare down when you're firing the pistol. And of course, when you bring in your magazine, it does have a slight little finger rest right here, which is typical for most of your PPKs. One thing though that I do like, we'll take the safety off, I'm going to drop the magazine, is that it does not have a magazine disconnect, which I really like. And so that's one thing about a lot of the different pistols. You know, that is a problem when you're trying to clean, you're trying to load without a magazine. It makes it very difficult. But also it only comes with one magazine, which I would really like to have seen a couple of magazines with it, but they are good high quality mags. Another thing is with .22 long rifle, you do not want to dry fire these excessively. It can damage the firing pin. But that's one of the great things about the decocker, is that if the hammer's back, you can just bring your decocker and then bring it back up and you're ready to fire. Now, one of the things about the double action trigger pull on these is it is pretty hefty. In fact, I believe, according to Walther, it said it was 17 pounds, and it is pretty hefty. Now, because the magazine holds the slide in the rear position after the last round, there's no slide release. So we have to drop our magazine to work the slide. And so if you have any kind of malfunctions, you've got to immediately drop that magazine. But the slide is very light and it comes back, and that's one of the reasons why you definitely need to be shooting just really high velocity ammunition through here. It makes the slide function a lot better.
CCI standard velocity 40 grain. See about function. Good to go. Okay, we're going to be shooting Federal Match 40 grain as a function test. So we had 2 rounds to fail, and you could tell that it was a lot lighter recoil pulse, and then it didn't hold the slide back. Next we're going with the Agula 22 Super Maxim. This is 30 grain, so it may not function. It may be a little bit too light. Got a couple of malfunctions, very smoky. Next we're using some of the Winchester M22. This is 40 grain. This is a reliability test. Functioned well, a little bit smoky, bulk ammunition.
Now pretty much in this same category is the Walther P22, and this is a 10 round 22. We're going to go ahead and drop this because we're going to look at it a little bit. 10 round magazine, open it up, and the gun is empty. This one has the magazine disconnect, so if the magazine's out, it won't fire. But you can see that it is a double single action pistol. So we have to insert the magazine to release the hammer. Now one of the things about the P22, it's just less expensive to produce, and so it's less expensive at your gun shop. But the P22 has a lot of features: front and rear cocking serrations, you have ambidextrous safeties, you have ambidextrous mag release, which it is the paddle mag release. So it's a very ergonomic, really nice little firearm. And you do have an accessory rail on the front of the P22 that you don't have on the Walther PPKs 22. But one of the things about the PPKs is it's got that traditional feel to it. Again, these pistols have been made for over 90 years. There's a lot of tradition, there's a lot of just that iconic feel to it. You know, whether it's the German army that used them during World War II, or again, James Bond. And so it gives this a really cool appeal. And honestly, the weight on the PPKs 22 is definitely heavier than the P22. Honestly, it's like old world versus new. But there's a lot of cool things about old world technology. But this is not the first PPK 22 that Walther has offered. Originally, they offered the TPH, which was a very scaled down version of the PPK, and it came in 22 long rifle and 22 ACP. But once the 1968 Gun Control Act became law, they couldn't import those any longer. Now the PPKs 22 has a 3.3 inch barrel, and we're going to bring it back because one of the things I want to show you is right here we have a thread protector over a threaded barrel. So if you have a suppressor, you can put an adapter on here and you can shoot this with your suppressor, which makes it a really nice feature. And it does come with a small wrench to take that thread protector off. They're 6 inches in overall length, they're 5 inches in height, and really about 0.75 inches in width. They are very thin. When you get the decocker, it puts it out just a little bit, but these are very slick firearms, especially for concealed carry. Now obviously this is 22 long rifle. It is not the most effective for self-defense, but the Walther PPK and PPKs have been carried effectively for decades. Now the Walther PPKs in 22, 1 pound, 7 ounces. The Walther PPKs all steel frame, 1 pound, 7.2 ounces. And then we have the P22, 1 pound, 1 ounce. They're very light firearms. All right, let's go ahead and drop our magazine. We're going to check the chamber to make sure it's unloaded. We're going to drop the hammer. Now, one thing we want to check is the trigger pull action. And again, guys, this is a fairly hefty trigger pull. And honestly, it's probably about 17 pounds. It's very difficult to tell the nuances of this trigger. But we're going to bring back the hammer. We're going to look at the trigger action. Have a little bit of take up right here. It hits a definite wall. A nice clean break. Reset right there. Very quick. Check our trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge and Brownells. We have it in single action. 4 pounds, 1.2 ounces. 3 pounds, 10.5 ounces. And guys, that's pretty much in that range. We're going to be shooting some CCI mini mags. Appreciate CCI for sending the mini mags for this test and evaluation. And these, if anything will work in it, CCI mini mags are just good quality. Now when it comes to the PPKs and 22 out at the range, very soft shooting. I mean, it is such a pleasure to shoot. It's such a small firearm anyway, and it does have some heft to it. But just pulling that trigger, it just stays really flat. One of the things about 22 is that it is so inexpensive to shoot, which makes it a big plus. And you can train, you can practice with it, especially if you own a regular Walther PP or the PPK or PPKs. This just gives you more time at the range for less money. And you can really work on your fundamentals. Another thing that's great about 22 is taking first-time shooters out to the range. Kind of takes off the fear factor when you're looking at larger calibers, and it gets them used just to shooting, a little bit of the noise, some of the recoil. Then you can move them up to more effective self-defense calibers. Now, one thing about the PPKs 22 is that it can be finicky with ammo. We shot 22 mini mags through this whole review, but I've owned this gun for a while. And I have shot a lot of different rounds through it. A lot of times some of the lower powered 22 will just not function in this handgun. And so really finding more higher pressure rounds, you're going to have a better range experience. And the CCI mini mags work very well. Now for disassembly, just drop your magazine. We're going to make sure the gun is unloaded. With the Walther PPK and PPKs, you just pull down on the trigger guard. Now typically you can pull it down and move it over just a touch and it will rest on the frame, but it won't do that with the 22, which is no big deal. Just bring down your trigger guard and then pull the slide to the rear position and lift up, and then that will bring it out. We have our recoil spring, and one of the things also is it is a fixed barrel. Here we see the thread protector, and there is a small little wrench, and we can just remove that. If you want to put a suppressor on this handgun, which being in 22, it makes an excellent candidate. You can just see it's a very simple design, and you know, Walther made it simple. And guys, that's all you need to do to field strip. For reassembly, just insert your recoil spring, bring down that trigger guard just a touch, bring it all the way back, and then drop it onto the frame. And then you can release that trigger guard. We're going to decock it instead of pulling the trigger. This is just a very iconic firearm, and guys, I'll tell you, it's so thin, it's so sweet to shoot.
Now the retail price on the PPKs 22 is $449 for the blued model and $469 for the stainless steel model. So they are pretty pricey compared to a lot of the polymer frame pistols that are out on the market. I picked this up at a local gun shop for $3.99. And yes, it is a little more expensive, but again, it does bring back that iconic feel of the standard PPK, which has been around again for over 90 years. So guys, if you love the iconic PPK and PPKs, the PPKs 22 is a great little firearm to take out to the range. Again, very inexpensive to shoot, low recoil, a lot of fun just to take out and shoot. And again, very reminiscent of 007, or the German Wehrmacht for that matter. Guys, if you depend on a firearm for self-defense, whether concealed carry or even home defense, having some kind of legal protection is vital. I'm a member of the USCCA. I've been a member for the past 3 years, and it is just peace of mind. You know that someone has your back if you ever get yourself in a tough situation where you have to draw your firearm. If you are carrying concealed, you should definitely have some kind of legal protection. Now, I'll have a link down below in the description to the USCCA membership page. It is an affiliate link, and I know that if anything ever goes down, I have a friend with USCCA. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. Walther PPQ,
and the Walther PP came in with a longer barrel, a little bit of a longer frame. The Walther PPKs was designed originally around. Now here we see Carl Walther. Now here we see Carl. This does have the magazine release, which I thought was kind of funny considering this one does not. This one has the mag. This has the mag